What is up, everybody? Welcome back. Eclectic Beard Reactions. This go around, we got Heroes Among Us Incident at Bamber Bridge. A buddy of mine said you need to take a look at that, so that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to take a look at, I don't no clue what this is about, to be honest with you. Yeah, so here we go.
Hi, I'm Mitch Mackey, president of Go for Broke National Education Center. We tell the story of the Japanese American soldiers of World War II, of their courage, patriotism, and sacrifice as they upheld America's promise. The promise that in our nation, no one is to be judged by the color of their skin, the nation of their origin, or the God whom they choose to worship. As we all know, our nation is currently struggling with a crisis of conscience. Despite the promise of America, not all individuals in our nation have been embraced by the American value of equality. In recognition and support of the Black community, Go for Broke National Education Center will be sharing stories of Black American soldiers during World War II, of their courage, of their patriotism, and of their sacrifice. They upheld America's promise, and in doing so, provide us today with a moral sense of direction. During World War II, Black American servicemen stationed in England were generally welcomed by their British hosts in ways that were completely opposite of the Jim Crow segregationist practices back in America. Black GIs would drink and socialize in mixed company in British pubs.
That is not something they were able to do, home. That's such a fucking disgusting period in American history. Like, the fact they were able to take and go overseas and socialize in pubs, were over here people that look different from them. White folks here, there were signs that were just, they couldn't sit at the same, they couldn't either come into restaurants, they couldn't sit at like bars and stuff like. So I'm sure that was a big departure, massive departure from what they were used to, and probably very much needed, probably morale wise, because I know they were also treated differently in the military at that time,
where they were not only allowed to enter, but were warmly welcomed by the locals. Black soldiers saw around them a very different reality from that which they faced at home, a non-segregated society where they were welcomed as fellow fighters against fascism rather than second-class soldiers. The U.S. Army authorities, however, did not condone this equal treatment. 1943. The 1511th Quartermaster Truck Regiment, a segregated black unit, was stationed outside the town of Bamber Bridge. U.S. military authorities demanded that the town's pubs impose racial restrictions. The 3 village pubs responded with signs that read, "Black troops only." On the evening of June 24th,
that's what gets me about the American government. And this is one of the things, like, I didn't even, my buddy said, check this out. In World War II, and they're fucking demanding bullshit like that. Get the fuck out of here.
Black troops and white locals were enjoying themselves at the Old Hog Inn. At closing time, white military police arrived and tried to arrest Private Eugene Nunn, a Black American soldier, for not wearing the proper uniform. But they were faced with white British soldiers, both male and female, who sided with Nunn and his fellow soldiers. The incident escalated into a fistfight, and the military police were beaten back. Later, the MPs returned with reinforcements, and a battle developed in the streets. Shots were fired, and Private William Crossland, one of the black soldiers, died with a bullet in his back. 4 other injuries to black American soldiers occurred in a 5-hour confrontation which ended at the Adams Hall Army Camp. The events of that night led to the death of 1 black soldier, significant injuries to several others, and the convictions of 27 black American soldiers, which would later be commuted or overturned.
If I'm a foreign country, and massive war or not, something like this happened with my borders, I'd be telling the other country whose soldiers that, like, and even my own citizens that had to take and put up with this, I'd tell them, pack fucking sand and get the hell out. That's bullshit.
The events in Bamber Bridge highlighted the vexing paradox of race relations and prejudice at the time. Despite the open-armed welcome from British citizens, the U.S. Army uniform provided no protection from the racist attitudes embodied by the U.S. Army authorities. After their service, black soldiers returned stateside with little tolerance for the pervasive and prejudiced Jim Crow laws. But they soon discovered once again that their service provided no protection from the discrimination and racial violence that still permeated America. The harsh reality was that some black veterans were to be lynched, a harrowing image of suppression and racial intolerance. The struggle for equality and social justice continues on today. We at Go for Broke National Education Center honor these black American soldiers of World War II who served and sacrificed for our nation, and we continue our commitment to ensuring America's promise.
So that happened in World War II. That's not something I've never heard of this. This is not something that's ever brought up anywhere. But there are sayings that have been fomenting in this country, and part of it, a large part of it, due to it, and I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what anybody says. Racism isn't as big of a problem as what it used to be in this country. However, it still exists. It still massively exists. There's pockets of it. I say massively. There's pockets of it in places. There's a narrative being driven in our media, but you can't take and turn a blind eye. There's people talking, oh yeah, there's no such thing as institutionalized racism and stuff like that. Whenever you have people whose ancestors were brought here as fucking slaves, and then they're freed, but after they're freed, every fucking state in the nation had laws that basically, if you were black and you weren't a citizen in that fucking town, you had to be gone by nightfall or the next fucking day, or risk being tarred and feathered and other stuff like that. You have laws that are passed by the U.S. government that taken either U.S. government or local laws where intimidation of black voters is completely fine. They couldn't take and go into the same fucking places. They couldn't ride buses sometimes, or they had to take a ride in the very back of a bus, or they had so much stuff. And everybody acts like, oh yeah, well, Civil Rights Act, that didn't change a fucking thing, dude. Are you kidding me? It's only through generational fucking teaching that's not the fucking way to do things, that things have fucking improved over here. but things could be a hell of a lot better. All the stuff that's happened between George Floyd, especially due to the George Floyd killing, and all the other stuff that's happened, right along with we're all fighting a fucking a pandemic, is the reason why I end everything. I end every one of my fucking videos with be good to each other, because that's a fucking core tenet of human values. Be good to each other. Be good to your fellow person next to you. You never know when you might need his hand to lift you up out of something. And this shit like this, it pisses me the fuck off about my country, about our history. Yeah, it's history, and it's something that it's all countries have things in their history they're not proud of, but it's stuff like this in the less than human treatment that really, and then a lot of times the cover up of stuff, or even how some of it's still perpetuated to this day, whether it be within certain groups that just don't need to fucking exist, or us trying to get past stuff and our media trying to fucking throw fucking fire to flames. Like, it's just, but this is the kind of shit right here that's just like, how does, they're fighting for the country. How does that, I'm a fucking lost for words, man. It's the reason why I always say, be good to each other. Love yourself. Be good to each other. It's what we need in this world. Be good to each other. Because if everybody was good to each other, we wouldn't have had shit like this happen. Learn from history, so that way you don't repeat it. But be good to each other. Love yourself. Peace.